evening and welcome to another Monday night here on DJNTV. Tonight we have got one of my favorite people in the DJ industry. Oh, Jim, can you have your wife come on and talk to us? Because oh, no, it's the one and only. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not met this person, you are missing something in your life. This is the one and only Jim Cerone. Jim, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic, John. You mentioned my wife, Rosie. She was the first person I was going to say as the one who supported me, allowed me to do this whole thing.
Isn't that the truth? How our family, not only spouse, but the family with the kids, everyone has, for us to be successful, we're behind us all the way with that.
Well, Lori and your 14, 15 children?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the football team and the hockey team together. Yeah, it's great. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our show is brought to you by DJ Event Planner. DJ Event Planner is the online planning tools that a lot of us use, and they've been a huge sponsor of the DJ industry across the board. And of course, they are a big sponsor here at DJNTV. The link for DJ Event Planner is down in the description of this video. If you're looking for something to use on your website to help communication with your couples and your clients, this is a tool you definitely need to check out, DJ Event Planner. And again, link in the description of the video. So Jim, a lot of people know you from The Perfect Host, and kind of give us a little background on what brought The Perfect Host to fruition many years ago when you first started that.
Well, another great supporter of me was my parents. They supported this crazy idea that I had when I was 16 years old that I wanted to be on the radio. And right about that same time, my dad belonged to a country club. He was a fabulous golfer. And they had a twilight golf outing on the back patio, and they said, hey, we need music. Doesn't your son work at the radio station or something? So because of my parents and their support, I was able to jump into radio and DJing right at the same time at 16 years old. And then I had been DJing for about 10 or 15 years, and I felt like I was missing something. And I thought about the parties that my parents threw. John, I don't know if you had that house in high school where everybody always gathered. That was kind of the default place where everybody went to. Hey, let's go to the Cerones after the game. That was our house.
Nice.
My parents threw dinner parties. We had people from as young as I can remember. We had lots of people always in the house. They loved great conversation. There was always music. There were drinks and great food. And I realized that that's what I was missing from my parties, is the way that my parents hosted. And I thought about that, and I made a top 10 list of things that my parents did, and that's what became ultimately The Perfect Host and changed the way that I did events.
Very nice. And it became a seminar, and there were versions of that seminar that really were presented around the country.
And I was lucky enough to do it in Australia and England as well.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. And the seminar, a lot of people have learned and have gotten to know Jim Cerone from that, from your seminar and such. So they've seen that side of you, and they know of the musical side. But tonight I really wanted to kind of focus on that musical side, because music programming is a huge passion for you.
And it started without me really thinking about it. Because I was in radio in high school and in college, I did an internship at WLS in Chicago, at the time a really well-known radio station with personalities like Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer, Larry Lujak, Tommy Edwards. Those are the people that I kind of listened to and grew up following. And I really loved the music side of it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that when I DJ'd, I was using the things I learned in radio programming to fill the dance floor, which
right.
is totally different than the way most DJs get started.
And let's, before we get into that, let's kind of put a little pin in that area right there. Let's go back. You mentioned the house the parties at the house, where your parents were hosting people coming over on a regular basis. Who was that influential one in your house that was picking the music and really kind of started you on that trail of liking, pop music of the time?
So ours was a very musical household. My mom was a voice major. She was in beauty pageants when she was younger, and her talent was voice. My sister followed her. My sister Lori is 4 years older than I am, and she also was a voice major in college and was in beauty pageants. And my brother played the drums, and I mean, the house was very musical. Mm. My father, although he loved music, could not sing. But that didn't stop him from singing. We lived in the Chicago area where my dad had a job, but his family and my mom's family were all back on the East Coast in New Jersey. And so we did lots of drives back and forth, and my father would sing his Beta Theta Pi songs from Rutgers University, and he would sing them loudly and proudly, not always on key, but he was very enthusiastic.
So really, it became that family passion for music that kind of rubbed off on you, or maybe it was that genetic. In your case,
my mom was the one who had the record collection,
sure.
and and I have them right behind me. I'll show you in this bookcase. I have all the records that my mom collected. She liked Simon and Garfunkel. She had the soundtrack from Hair. She had Tom Lehrer, who was kind of a satirist, Pete Seeger and Peter, Paul, and Mary. And then she had Sinatra and Dean Martin and classical music she also knew. So my mom really opened my mind to the music in her collection.
Very nice, very nice. That'll be kind of fun to take a look at that here in just a little bit. So, college, you were programming, and you found that those skills that you were using in that world really transferred over to the dance floor. How intentional when you were starting? Because obviously, when you're doing radio, you're very intentional with your playlists and things. How did that really translate? Could you be that intentional successfully, or was it one of those things that it was a huge jump with that spontaneity you needed to have?
Well, with high school, I was a top 40 guy through and through, but the high school radio station was dominated by rock guys. And so the clock that we had to use, the programming clock, I was allowed like 2 top 40 songs an hour, but then I had to play Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Loverboy, Aerosmith. You had to learn all the names of the albums. You had to know who the artists were. I can name you all the Eagles. I could tell you the albums in order. So the high school radio station really forced me to kind of go into a format that I didn't know as well. I really loved top 40 radio. Then in college, it was the same thing, but it was alternative music. I went to college in the 80s, a very small school that my sister went to as well. It's called DePauw University, and it's in Greencastle, Indiana. And I mention that because that'll come into play here in a little bit. Very small school, 2,400 students, literally in the middle of nowhere. Greencastle, Indiana is an hour from Indianapolis, 3 hours from Chicago, an hour from Terre Haute, Indiana. It's a very, very small town. So that radio station was affected by CMJ, and you may be old enough to remember, the College Music Journal.
Oh, no, I don't. That one I didn't hear of.
Like Billboard magazine, like Radio and Records magazine, the Gavin Report, Hitmakers, the CMJ College Music Journal was published for college stations around the country. And it leaned very much new wave, alternative, away from top 40. So where high school was rock, my college station was very esoteric, very obscure kind of. They didn't like mainstream top 40 music.
And we had a similar thing at our colleges. They would go a completely different direction, figuring that we're intellectuals, and this is what intellectuals listen to.
They didn't like me because on Sundays, I would do my own version of the Casey Kasem Campus Countdown.
Nice.
So I would play the top 40 music that was popular that they didn't like played the rest of the week.
You had your moment. There it was.
But I didn't, because DePauw was at such a small school, nobody on campus, I had never heard of somebody using 2 turntables. Nobody DJ'd except me on campus. And nobody used 2 turntables. Nobody did BPM. Nobody wrote the beats per minute on albums. DePauw was so removed from any kind of a club atmosphere or a big university influence. So I learned to DJ with a cassette player and 1 turntable. And eventually I had 2 mismatched turntables. They did not have pitch control. I had my own it was a light switch that I used to turn the turntable on and off so it would start without wowing. So that's how I learned to DJ. I did not learn to DJ in a club with 2 Technics 1200s. That was not part of my makeup. So when I started to DJ, I did every fraternity and sorority party on campus. And I kind of took the way that we did it in radio, where you didn't follow a set, you didn't build one genre in beats per minute. I jumped from one to another. I listened to how the songs began and ended, and that's kind of how I mixed.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, that was pretty cutting edge, because people were used to a band, at least in our area, where they would play the song and then they would end the song, and then they would have to change the guitar a little bit and adjust and then start again.
Yeah. So nobody expected beat matched. I really didn't learn to beat mix until the Newmark CDN 32 that had the pitch lock and the memory buffer. So until I got dual CD players with that pitch lock, I didn't really know BPM. It wasn't how I learned.
Yes.
So again, I really came from a different way. I was always very passionate about the music. I was the person on campus that had all the new songs.
Yes.
So I have props, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's dig into it.
So I used to carry a thing of cassettes, and what I would do is put as many songs on a cassette as I could, and I got to the point where I could usually fit 22 songs on one cassette, and that meant that I didn't have to carry 22 45s. I could get rid of those 45s because I had them on cassette.
Yes.
This is the original 45 crate that I used, and I had Currents female, Currents male, dance, new wave, classics. And the reason I have them separated by male and female is a radio thing.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
The belief in radio at the time was you should always break up. You don't want 10 male songs in a row, which was easy to happen because there were a lot more male artists at certain times on the charts. So you always tried to have at least 2 males and a female. So when I mix, I'm always thinking male, female, 2 males, female, because I think our ears crave variety. And again, that's just a radio thing. That was not a dance floor thing. That was not a learn in a club thing. Mm-hmm. So my background in DJing was very different and incorporated radio programming rather than strict DJ dance floor programming.
That's interesting. I guess I had not heard that theory. But it definitely, especially in radio programming, makes a lot of sense because of your dynamic and diverse audience you should have in front of you.
Yeah, and there were times on the charts where it was more female dominated. And I was the music director at the radio station eventually. And what that meant was I sat at a computer and I used a program called Selector, which was this very intricate DOS program, MS-DOS, for those that remember the computer language. You started at a C prompt and you went into Selector. And basically, it generated a music log for you. It used all these parameters and rules that you put in, and then it would spit out a music log. But it wasn't done very well. The music director then had to go in and juggle the songs.
Sure.
So I sat at a desk for most of my radio life, juggling songs and making the each hour flow. And between each commercial stop set, let's say you had a stop set, a commercial set at 10 after, and then the music swept until like 35 minutes after the hour, I would make sure that set was perfect. And I would spend a lot of time doing that. Each hour, 24 hours every day for years. That was my job as music director.
And in what format during that time when you were music director were you playing, or was the radio station specializing in?
So out of DePaul, my first professional radio job was a station called WBWB in Bloomington, Indiana. It started as kind of this weird, Bloomington is where Indiana University is. So it's a college town with 37,000 students. Then kind of a small southern Indiana town, and then a resort. In the summertime, there's a giant lake. And so it was sort of a very mixed audience you had to program for. And I would learn it when I started, it was kind of this weird mix of top 40 and album rock. And then eventually the station was sold to new owners and they took it straight top 40. So that's where I learned to play the hits and only the hits. although I love music and I love discovering new songs and listening to everything, that was one thing the record companies knew about me, is if they sent me something, I was going to listen to it.
Sure.
I listened to everything that crossed my desk. And John, it's so fun when you're the music director, the UPS truck, the post office arrives, and that stack of mail always came to my desk. And I got the fun of tearing open the envelopes and being the first one in the country to hear this or that. I distinctly remember Springsteen did Born in the USA. Remember how big that album was?
Oh, for sure.
And his follow-up was coming out. And one day, without a lot of announcement or pre-press, we get this blue Columbia Records envelope, and I open it, and it's Bruce Springsteen, Brilliant Disguise. It's the 45, and I probably have it right here. I knew I was one of the first people in the country to hear that song at that moment. I slapped it onto a cassette in the production room. I finished my air shift at 7 p.m. I turned right out of the radio station to go down by the lake and the causeway, and I just kept playing that song over and over. It was such a cool feeling.
And of course, nowadays with the internet, the distribution of music and how quickly it would be around is completely different. But at that time, yeah, you were the only one in town.
Instantly.
Yeah.
The thing that I had to learn, a tough lesson though, was to get ratings, to be popular at a radio station. You want to appeal to a target audience, and the way you do that is every time they turn on the radio, you want to be playing a hit they know.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to be kind of drilled into me. The reason we play the same songs over and over is because that's what the audience wants.
Yep.
And that was a hard lesson because I wanted to play everything. I wanted to expose this new artist and this great new song. And when I started at WB, I even had a show. I was really good at convincing them to give me shows. This one was buried at midnight on Sunday nights. But I did a new music show where I played all these new tracks that weren't getting any airplay. But the reason they stuck it in the overnight shift is because they knew it wouldn't affect the ratings.
Sure.
If you think of your dance floor and your business as a station that has a target audience that you're trying to appeal to the most people, you actually do the best by playing the hits. The reason people ask for Dancing Queen and Yeah by Usher over and over is because it works. Those are songs they know. People dance to what they know.
For sure.
So that lesson from radio really helped me in programming to dance floors because I didn't play obscure stuff. I didn't play stuff I thought was cool. I played only stuff I knew the audience would know and love.
Mm-hmm. And that's such
still do.
Yeah, and that's such a critical element with even today's programming. You hear it a lot more with streaming stations. Is that you will go and you'll hear the same song played within about 90 minutes. I'll hear it again, and I'll hear it again. It's just...
And people, when they do surveys, the radio station was neat because it also taught me about research. And radio stations did different kinds. They did call-out research, which was every 2 weeks, this research company would call listeners in the area and ask them to listen to 30 songs. And then they would rank them. You know, do you want to hear this song more? Do you want to hear this song less? Are you tired of this song? Do you love this song? And from that, we would base what we call our rotations.
Sure.
This is really deep, and I won't go too far. But radio stations have A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, F's, and G's. That used to be the way they did it. Mm-hmm. The A's were your top 5 or top 7 songs. Those are the ones that play every 90 minutes. The B's are songs either on their way up or on their way down, and that would be 12 to 15 songs. Then the C's would be new songs that have just come out that you would play every once in a while to see if they were hitting. Mm-hmm. The D's were called recurrents, which are songs that had been A's and B's and or C's and had dropped off. So they were starting to get older, maybe 3 months old. And you would play those for about a year, and then they would drop to another category. And I did a whole podcast about this where there's a funnel. And I use this when I'm deciding what to play for weddings and events. Mm-hmm. Popular songs have a shelf life. And once it's a current or an A, it doesn't always make it to recurrent. Some songs burn fast and hot, and then nobody ever wants to hear them again.
Yes.
And so they don't make it down the funnel to become a recurrent. And then recurrents don't always make it to the gold category, we called it. And so when each year I go through my library and I look at what's still relevant, what songs are still hitting, what songs are people still requesting, what songs have faded away.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that in radio, and I do that when I'm programming for events too. I try to think of what songs are still relevant. Katy Perry at this point is an irrelevant artist. She just is not, nothing she's releasing is hitting. People don't really request California Girls or maybe Firework. So if you think of your library in those terms, your programming, you're taking out the songs that no longer work, that are no longer relevant.
Right. Moving those out of the rotation, as they would say.
Yeah.
And utilizing that, is this something that you kind of look at on a regular basis throughout the season, or do you really wait until the end of the season then to kind of reclassify some of the songs at the end of the year?
You're in Minneapolis, we're in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. Our season is a little bit longer than you guys because we don't have as bad of cold weather. From March, April is really when our season kicks off, through November and even to December with how mild the season has been. So January, February, March, I usually have one event on the calendar, maybe one wedding, sometimes two. So in January, once I finish my taxes, then I go through my library and I spend some time looking at my main library, and people call them crates. I still use iTunes and call them playlists, but I have a banger playlist, and those are the songs that I know are pretty tried and true, and songs rotate in there, and then I go through and trim that list every year. Same thing with my current playlist or current crate. I go through and I take out the songs that worked for a short time and then dropped off. That second single from, they don't always last. So I try to do that on an annual basis.
Nice. And then you mentioned recurrence, of course, and then you mentioned a gold category. Tell me more about that category. What is that?
So that could be everything from Staying Alive to Get Low. It could be swag surfing. It could be, it's anything that has lasted longer than 5 years or 10 years. Some songs have resurgence and come back, like Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield. So sometimes you'll take a song out and it works its way back in because of a TikTok. A lot of songs have been reintroduced, Dancing in the Moonlight, both the top loader version and the King Harvest version. Those kind of came back around. I had a request Saturday night for Still the One by Orleans.
Yes.
And it filled the dance floor. So the gold category for me is songs that have been requested consistently over the 30 years I've been doing this.
So that's a folder that is going to evolve a little bit, i.e. maybe adding a song here and there as they've hit that 5 year. Do you get to a point where you're looking at it and it's like, okay, I've not had anything for this song in a long time, and it comes out of the gold, or once it's there, it stays?
No, it's that same thing of relevance. So if I look annually and this song has not gotten any requests, it worked well for a while, I'll move it out. Mm-hmm. So when I have 45 seconds left of the song that's playing and I've had a brain fog, I'm scanning that gold list or the bangers list to find the next big hit. And so I don't want that to be 500 songs or 1,000 songs. For a while, I had it down to 250, and then I keep adding. So now I think it's about 350 right now. It could probably use another trim. But I just want to look through and know that these are the songs that always work. So if I'm in a disco genre, I can look for Boogie Shoes or I Will Survive or something like that. If I'm in a rap set like I was Saturday night, I know I could follow swag surfing with, I think I started that set with No Hands and then moved my way up in BPM. So that crates is the term that people use now, but I just call it my short list.
Sure.
These are my go-tos, and if I'm struggling, let me look at that list real quick.
So when you were with the radio, you had your different categories, ABC and so on. We're kind of your big songs, your bangers. Are you doing a similar format when it comes to, or process or thought process, I suppose, of playing? Okay, so I'm going to play a percentage of the main ones, and then I'm going to be pulling things in from, some newer songs that fit, because this couple are into that newer stuff, and some country song, whatever. How much are you utilizing that type of a thought process of mixing in from different genres, even if they haven't requested some of those areas and those types of songs?
The process that I do with my clients, my couples, is I try to really personalize as much as I can. So I get to know them. Usually they hire me a year out, and we have what I call their onboarding session, which is right after they sign the agreement and book the date. We talk kind of about the vision of their day, a quick 15-minute Zoom chat, and I ask them, what do you guys listen to? Who are some of your favorite artists? And those go in my notes. In that onboarding chat, I always take notes. Then we do their detailing session about 3 months away. And that is where we talk through the whole reception, start to finish, or if I'm doing both the ceremony and the reception, we talk for an hour, hour and a half. And that's where I'm really digging deep with them. I have planners and playlists to help them. If you look at my Spotify, I have playlists for every moment in the reception. I have a cake cutting playlist. I have a grand entrance playlist. I have one for the last dance. I have father-daughter, mother-son, songs to walk into for the processional, for the ceremony itself, unity candle songs, if they're doing that, recessional songs. So I try to give them a lot of resources to help them. John, the funny thing is they don't like lists, because if it's on a list, that means somebody else has used it for their wedding, and so I don't want to use it.
Precisely.
So the one thing that has changed in the long, long time that I've been doing this, from 1980 till now, is the impact of streaming, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, has caused a shift where we all used to listen to the same radio station and we all knew the same top 40 songs. Now it is like this. Mm-hmm. Everybody's tastes are so broad. I follow charts. That I'm listening to music every week, constantly. I just took a wonderful road trip with our two boys, Jimmy and Joey, and their playlists included tons of artists I've never heard of.
Interesting.
I've been a music director. I've been a program director. I've been in radio my entire career. I still look at 10 charts every week. And there are the other thing that's different today, in addition to the music selection that any listener can have, is there's more music being made now than ever before.
Yes. Yeah.
Where Fleetwood Mac or Zeppelin or Supertramp, it cost $300,000 to make an album in a studio. You had to reserve studio time. Then you had overdubs. Then you had mixing. It took 6 months to a year to make an album. Steely Dan, would go 3 years between albums because of their perfectionism. Now anyone can make an album on an iPad. And so there's more music being produced than ever before. There's more music coming from more directions. The record company model of Warner Brothers, Columbia, Sony, Capitol Records, having this kind of monopoly on who got to release albums is gone. Yeah. And it just opens up this possibility where anybody can have a hit, which is great. But keeping up with that is exhausting.
For sure. Impossible. I mean, literally, it's impossible with all of the music that is being produced out there.
Yeah, that's what's so different today. So having playlists that can help you, because I think I've reached the capacity of my brain. I have so many songs, lyrics. I could tell you from my time on the radio, Extremes More Than Words has a 7-second intro, so you can talk for up to 7 seconds before you hit the vocal post, and it's 3:43, and then it has a cold fade. That's the kind of stuff my brain is filled with.
No, I don't remember what our first date was, honey, but boy, I could tell you about this Extreme song.
So I think that it's reached the point where I need some help, because I just can't. There's too much music being made. Yeah. I hate to be stumped. I love when a guest comes up and they look at me and my gray hair and they expect that I'm not going to know this new artist that they're trying to get me to play.
Yep.
And when I smile and say, "Oh, from that new album," you know, if it's Sabrina Carpenter or whoever, I'm up to date as much as I can be, and I usually know what they're asking for, which is fun.
Nice. Excellent. So today, when you're putting together, you've talked about, of course, the weddings and talking to them and getting an idea of what the artists and things they like in songs and such. Let's talk about reading the dance floor when it comes to the guests and how you modify your play when you're getting that visual feedback from your dance floor at a wedding. How does that affect some of the direction and maybe even some of the changes of some of your direction in your songs?
What's changed so much is the attention span. And so I hope that we'll get a chance to talk about cocktail and dinner music, because to me, that is vital to creating the atmosphere that people then want to stay for. But the thing that has changed so much is how short people's attention spans are. And songs have adapted. A lot of songs now are under 3 minutes. Some of them are under 2 minutes now. Right. Some of the latest ones that have come out. I use promo only. I've also used prime cuts in the past. So back here, these are all the CDs, and then you can't see this one over here, but this has tons and tons of CDs. All my prime cut subscriptions when they were putting out CDs before promo only went to downloads. I really utilize the promo only quick edits. Nice. I think those are vital. Those help so much. But for gold, for stuff that I have in my banger crate, I am creating my own short edits. Wanna Be the Spice Girls. I started noticing that's too long. And so I cut out a verse, I cut out a chorus, and I shortened it. Then I Want It That Way, the Backstreet Boys. Same thing. I'm creating short edits. Dancing in the Moonlight, we mentioned. That gets really repetitive towards the end. So why not just cut some of those choruses out, make it shorter? I'm shooting for like a minute and a half for a lot of the edits that I'm making. That to me is better than either trying to dip out of a song on the fly or to do a cue point where each time you play that song, you have to remember to hit the cue point at this point so that it jumps ahead to the last chorus. Mm-hmm. To me, it's much easier to just make my own edit.
Sure.
That's something I never thought I would be spending time doing in my extended years of being a DJ, that I would be spending a lot of time editing. But it increases the impact on the dance floor. They have more impact. People hear the song they love, and then we're on to the next thing. So short attention span, watching the guests. As DJs, we watch people's hands. And when the hands start to do this, that's when you know it's time to change the song.
When they start coming down too far.
And that's about 90 seconds today.
It is. It really is. That's become kind of that magic moment of we're on the move. We're going somewhere.
And Saturday night is a great example. I had a wonderful crowd. I had done one of the other groomsmen's weddings last year, so I knew this was going to be a great crowd. And your weddings are different than ours in Indy. Ours receptions are pretty standard 5 hours. Hour of cocktails, hour of dinner, 3 hours of dancing. This couple added an hour of overtime in advance, and that's a whole nother discussion. I don't allow people to add overtime at the event. I want to plan my programming ahead of time.
Sure.
This was going to be 3 hours and 45 minutes of dancing. They had 7 hours total. So early in the evening, I watched people's body language, and I played more of a song early on because I'm like, I gotta get through 3 hours and 45 minutes. In the last hour and a half, I was mixing pretty quickly. I was quick mixing, and that's when I really got into more of the songs that I knew would work from having done those previous couples' weddings. So sometimes you mix according to how long you have to fill and how the crowd is responding. So body language, having short edits prepared, using the quick edits from promo only, setting cue points so that you're just playing the best part of the song. I used to worry about protecting the integrity of the song, and isn't it important to reflect the artist and what their intention was. No, nobody cares. They want to hear the chorus.
The part they know.
The best part. They want to hear, like Justin Bieber. Dave Lander gave a great speech about programming, and he mentioned baby Justin Bieber. People want to hear the chorus. They want to hear the ludicrous rap, and that's it. And so if you have the mentality where you just kind of have to let go and give people what they want, you watch the dance floor, watch how people are reacting. And I always suggest to DJs that they not stay rooted behind their console once dancing starts. You've got to keep walking around the room and looking at the tables that are not in your eye line. How come that table hasn't gotten up? When was the last time I saw somebody over 50 on the dance floor? I always ask my couples when I meet with them, what's the percentage of guests? What's the age range going to be? This couple last Saturday was mid-30s. The bride and groom were 33. And so there was a big pocket of people in that 30 to 40 range, and then they're older guests. And so if you really watch the whole dance floor, not just what's happening in front of you, not the party people that are always out there for every song, but try to make sure you're programming to everybody in the room so they all have a chance to get up at some point.
And enjoy. I mean, there still might be some of those tables that won't get up, but boy, they're going to appreciate, playing music that they enjoy, that were from their era, what have you.
And that's why cocktails and dinner are so key.
And
John.
That's where I want to go. There's two things I want to hit before we wrap up, Jim, and I'm going to give you these. I want you to go back to your mom's record collection if you've got it behind you there, and I would like you to share her favorite album or one of her favorite albums.
Okay.
And then I want to talk cocktail and dinner, because I think that's so overlooked by so many DJs, and it can do so many great things for your events.
This is the album I remember my mom playing the most. I think she had a little crush on Frank Sinatra. She wasn't like, she didn't have posters up in the living room or anything, but this album she played a lot, which is Try a Little Tenderness, These Foolish Things, Fools Rush In, Over the Rainbow. I love to sing as well, and I'm very fortunate I got that from my mom and my sister. There's a retirement community nearby that loves the standards, the Great American Songbook, and so it's really fun for me to go share their favorite songs they love, about 4 times a year, which is great fun for me, and I'm putting together a playlist that's going to please all of them.
And it really is. It brings you back to that connection you had as a youngster growing up, and what a fun kind of complete circle with that part of that. Neat.
So, do we have just a couple minutes for me to talk about cocktails?
We've got another just short of 10 minutes, and I figured that this is again an area where I think too many DJs overlook, and it does so many incredibly valuable things for a performance for the night.
If I'm going to share one secret to why my dance floors are always full at the end of the night, it's because I really put a lot of thought into what gets here when they first walk in. If you imagine you're like invited to maybe one wedding every 5 years, you're a second cousin twice removed. This is a strange building. You've never been in this fancy ballroom before. You're wearing a suit that you don't ever wear and you're uncomfortable. What gives people comfort? Music they know. And so from the minute they walk in the door, if they hear a song they know, they're mouthing the words and they don't even realize it. I love walking around during cocktail hour and looking at people, and they don't even realize they're mouthing the words.
Yes.
And I have changed my philosophy on cocktail and dinner music to the point where, for me now, it's one step below dance music. Dance the Night, Dua Lipa from the Barbie movie. That had an okay chart run when it was out. I had 1 or 2 times where it worked really well on the dance floor. For cocktail hour, it's golden. It's great. Anything Motown, the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Supremes. Think of I Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, Baby Love, the Supremes. You're trying to hit all the different age groups. A lot of the parents of couples now are actually 80s kids. And so if you're playing Take On Me or something like that from the 80s, that's going to hit their generation. So I wouldn't go back too far, depending on the couple and the formality of the event. If I'm playing Union Station in downtown Indianapolis, which is this great, grand, luxurious ballroom, and it's a black tie event that's on the invitation, black tie formal, then Rat Pack, Sinatra, Harry Connick, Glenn Miller, some big band, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Michael Bublé. I can do that all day long.
Yes.
But most weddings are not that formal. And so I want to set a fun up-tempo atmosphere. Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten, is a great dance floor song now, but Pocket Full of Sunshine is a great cocktail song. So I'm using that same radio programming to go from decade to decade and from male to female and from new to old during cocktail hour to set this really fun up-tempo atmosphere that have guests feeling the celebration without even realizing it. They're subconsciously really juiced and ready, and then the dance floor explodes.
Yes.
Dinner music, I used to play a lot of ballads and treat it like, it's digestion time. It's time to sit and eat and have conversation. I do that for about 15 minutes because there's always that one guy who gets his plate set down in front of him, and in 4 minutes, he's eating the last bite. Everybody eats faster now. So I play maybe 3 ballads or love songs to kick dinner off and set that mood. And then, like a pot boiling on the stove, I'm bringing the tempo up and going back to that kind of cocktail up-tempo fun atmosphere. Because people eat faster, dinner hour is no longer dinner hour. So please spend some time thinking about cocktail and dinner music. And the same thing there in terms of edits. I don't play the entire version of Take On Me by Aha. I've created a short version. So people hear the song they know, but they don't hear too much of it. And I can fit more songs into cocktail hour that way too.
Now, when it comes to the playlist, when they come, the dance side of it, you've kind of massage and tweak it from event to event. Is your cocktail time, is that playlist kind of somewhat consistent from event to event over a period of time? Or is that something that you create a new one each week and there's, 60% is different songs than last week?
I have a crate or a template that I start with for cocktails and dinner. And then I have another crate called Dinner's Almost Over. And so I start with those, but based on what the bride and groom have told me, sometimes that gets thrown completely out the window.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use every 3rd or 4th song in that playlist and fill in with the couple's favorites. I had one 2 weeks ago that was more country oriented.
Sure.
So I had to weave in a lot more country into cocktails and dinner. So have a template that you can start with, songs that you know are popular and people like, songs that you hear at restaurants and grocery stores. That's a good way to seek inspiration for cocktail and dinner music, because restaurants research too, and they know what's going to set a good mood for their crowd and the people that come in to eat. So grocery stores, same thing. That music is researched. It's not just picked by somebody in the back. The Kroger or Albertsons or whatever you have near you, they have a music department that programs music that people like to hear when they shop. So look for those areas for inspiration.
Definitely good sources for that. It's just sometimes kind of sad when I'm in a store and it's like, hey, this is a great song, and then I remember that this song was from 30 years ago and I was younger, and
so they knew exactly what to play for you.
Exactly. It's like, wait a second. I mean, that used to be a fun pop, and now it's made an oldies thing in the grocery store. There's that.
Do we have time for 2 more things real quick, John?
Yeah, please.
So when I started DJing, I did not have matched turntables. I didn't even have a mic. This is the $15 Radio Shack mic that I splurged on.
Nice.
It was the first mic that I ever bought, but it had a really short cable. And before wireless mics, you couldn't really hand this to the father of the bride because it didn't reach.
Yeah, they're only about 8 feet or whatever.
So my next big splurge, my next big purchase was another Radio Shack mic. I think this one was $29
Oh, yeah.
with a much longer
The
cord.
25-foot cord. Yes, I think I have that exact microphone.
So that's how long I've been doing this.
Oh man, that's fun. That's fun. You know, the kids ran into some of my Radio Shack things that are in a tote that I haven't. And they were like, it's like, Radio Shack, what's that? Which brand is that?
It was the DJ's lifesaver many times.
It was, yeah, that was, we thought when we went in there and it's like, oh my gosh, we can get everything and here we go. Yay. Oh, how times have changed. Jim, before we jump, I wanted to just one last part when it comes to the response from your clients after the feedback you're getting, whether it's in the evaluation forms or some notes afterwards. How do they, what kind of a response do you get from them when it comes to the music that is performed for the day when you're doing, these short edits and you're doing such a diverse music playlist for them to hit their crowd so well? What have they been giving you for feedback?
Because I spend so much time getting to know them and customizing, what I try to do is exceed their expectations. So to me, cocktail and dinner music sets that mood, and I'm able to incorporate, let's say, songs that they love but don't work on the dance floor. I can play them during cocktails and dinner, so they're getting that atmosphere and the mood that they like. Saturday's couple, the bride had made a playlist of what she called first dance contenders. And they were pretty obscure, but I was able to play them during cocktails and dinner. And I saw her a number of times during the night mouthing every word to the songs I was playing. So if you customize and personalize, really take the time to get to know your couples, you're going to exceed their expectations. If you program not what you like, but what you know the crowd wants to hear, even though they've heard it 1,000 times, then you're going to be successful. If you play what's popular, and only the part of the song that people like, that's going to keep your dance floor full and keep your inquiries coming in.
And of course, your clients are going to be thrilled because that is a party that they've been wanting to have.
They really want a full dance floor. They want fun. They want it fast. The pacing is so much faster now. I'm really paying attention to moving to the next thing. So that's another way of helping your clients have a great party, is to make sure you're setting them up for success by keeping the evening moving. That's the DJ's job, is to keep the agenda moving along quickly.
Yeah, that it is. Jim, we're just about out of time. If people would like to reach out and chat a little bit, I did put the DJ Jim Cerone Spotify link. So if people are wanting to check out some of those playlists, that was in the chat up above here a little bit. You guys can find that. But if somebody would like to reach out and talk music, because I hear you kind of like to talk music a little bit once in a while.
Just a little. They can hit me on Facebook. They can send me a DM on Instagram. I'm everywhere on my social media. LinkedIn is a great professional tool. On my website, it has a link to my phone number, my email address. So please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk DJ anytime, day or night.
That sounds great, Jim. Thank you for being on and have enjoyed our time together tonight tremendously. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. We're going to be back in about 10 minutes with our next show here. We're doing our question and answer night tonight. And of course, tonight's show is brought to you by DJ Event Planner, DJEventPlanner.com, one of the online tools to help you communicate with your couples and your clients. So, Jim, thank you once again for being on with me tonight.
Thank you, John. Always great to see you.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.